The Avenues gained national notoriety for senseless killings, including hate crimes and the killings of cops and even a 3-year-old girl. Also known as Avenidas, the gang are named after avenues that cross Figueroa Street in northeast LA, claiming Highland Park, Cypress Park, Glassell Park, and Eagle Rock as its turf. And with the Mexican Mafia and Sinaloa cartel behind them, their ruthless grip on the streets grew strong. Cops have tried to break them for decades, with even President Clinton once denouncing the gang before pledging federal money to try and end them. Founded by the elusive Flores brothers in the 1940s, the gang was created so that young Latinos could protect themselves from other violent youths. Back then, the gang's main rival was Clover Street, but as time went on, the avenues got bigger. Then, as members returned from serving in the Vietnam War, they had learned how to use firearms properly, making them even more dangerous. With the demand drugs growing quickly on the streets during the 1970s, the avenues decided to move into dealing, quickly creating rivalries with other gangs, which accelerated the homicide rate so much that the area became known as Little Vietnam because so many people were getting shot. Gang tattoos include a skull with a bullet hole wearing a fedora hat, and kids as young as 11 were allowed to join by being jumped in, before being ordered to carry a gun and take part in drive-by shootings, beatings, carjackings, and kidnappings. Age was never a problem for recruitment, even when it came to high-level positions. After leader Alex Pee Wee Aguirre was sentenced to life in 1995 for 7 murders and 6 attempted murders, he turned over control to his brother, Richard Little Pee Wee Aguirre, who was aged just 14 at the time. Becoming a shot caller at such a young age didn't go down well with older members who didn't like taking orders from a kid, so in a bid to prove his ruthlessness, Richard greenlit 3 murders. The first was Avenues member Joseph Torres, who was found shot to death on Isabel Drive in July 1995 for allegedly collecting taxes in an area run by the Avenues, but was giving the proceeds to another Mexican Mafia member. The second was a reputed drug dealer, Alan Downey, who was found dead in his car on Eagle Rock Boulevard in 1995 for allegedly refusing to pay Alex Aguirre taxes for drugs he was selling out of a bar in Highland Park. On April 11, 1996, Raul Rodriguez was killed for snitching on Avenues gangbanger Richard Stalker Ramirez, whom he told police had killed someone at a New Year's Eve party the year before. Richard Aguirre's reign on the streets lasted until 2001, when he was charged for the 3 murders and sentenced to life at Kern Valley State Prison. During the early 90s, the cops blamed the Avenues alone for more than half of the 200-plus homicides in northeast LA neighborhoods. But the first incident to shine a national spotlight on the gang, putting them in the crosshairs of law enforcement, was the shocking murder of 3-year-old Stephanie Cohen in 1995. Around 1:45 a.m. on September 17th in Cypress Park, the Cohen family were on their way home from a cookout when they made a wrong turn onto Isabel Street, nicknamed the Street of Killers. 15 to 20 Avenues members began throwing trash cans in the car's way before opening fire. Stephanie Cohen was killed, and other members of her family were also hit, but luckily survived. In 1997, Anthony Rodriguez, Manuel Rosales Jr., and 18-year-old Hugo David Gomez were sentenced to 54 years and 8 months to life for the terrible attack. According to gang experts, a long-standing race war between the Mexican Mafia and the Black Guerrilla family generated such intense racial hatred among Mexican Mafia leaders that Alex Aguirre issued a green light on all Black people. In November 2000, just 2 months after moving to Highland Park, Anthony Prudhomme was shot dead whilst asleep on a futon after his home was broken into. In December 2000, Christopher Bowser was gunned down in broad daylight at a bus stop, and Kenneth Wilson was simply looking for a parking space when Avenues members in a stolen van approached them and opened fire for no reason other than the color of their skin. The murders of these innocent men led to the first high-profile case of prosecuting a gang of color as a hate group, a tactic normally used to bust white supremacist gangs and the Ku Klux Klan. In 2018, after more than 15 years on the run, Merced Shadow Cambero was sentenced to 20 years behind bars after pleading guilty to Wilson's murder. 4 other Avenues members were sentenced to life in federal prison for their involvement in Bowser and Wilson's murder. The ruthlessness of the Avenues also included targeting cops. In February 2008, after carrying out a drive-by shooting, Avenues members with AK-47s opened fire on cops in Glassell Park. The shootout resulted in the killing of Avenues' Danny Clever, Leon, and injuring another member. Then, in August 2008, off-duty L.A. County Sheriff's Deputy Juan Escalante was shot dead in front of his parents' home in Cypress Park. 6 people were charged with the shooting. The gang members claimed Escalante was killed in a case of being mistaken for a rival gang leader. But prosecutors believed the attack was payback for the shootout that killed Danny Leon just months earlier. Escalante had nothing to do with the incident, but federal prosecutors believed he died for it. In 2019, off-duty LA police officer Juan Diaz confronted Avenues members when he saw them tagging a sidewalk near a late-night taco stand. Avenues Christian Facundo allegedly lifted his shirt to reveal a handgun before he and his assailant, Francisco Talamantes, opened fire into Diaz's vehicle as he tried to drive away to avoid any trouble. Several thousand mourners attended Diaz's funeral, and as the community grappled with the scars left by decades of bloodshed,